a lot of air here.
It's
I
the
was
opposite.
looking at the Twitch content classification guidelines, and you're supposed to mark the stream if it's going to contain significant profanity or vulgarity. I don't think we hit that bar.
I think we need to up our game. That is. I mean, that's the first time I think anybody's ever told you to up your swearing game. Um,
It has been a
but
while.
we've all got to hit our quotas. Um, so yeah, we're gonna.
Spicy. That's the level we're going for. We're looking for spiciness.
I mean, are we sort of like a British Indian spicy, trying to be spicy, doesn't need to be tasty spicy, or just
No.
a normal level of spice? It needs to be
I'm going
tasteful.
Nashville hot chicken here. That you're probably not familiar with that level of spice. I mean, our Nashville hot chicken specifically.
Fair enough. Fair
But it's
enough.
still tasty, but you know you're eating it.
And you also know you ate it.
True, at least for the afternoon. It's yeah. Yeah, you'll be looking forward to getting home and brushing your teeth.
Cool. Okay. So I thought today we could continue on from what we were doing last week, which was all about chaos engineering, but more
True, at
specifically
least for
chaos
the
engineering
afternoon.
with
And
observability.
right, right. So we had you had the hotel demo microservices system running in an AKS cluster in Azure, and you've got tracing set up, including sampling, um, and then you've got Chaos Mesh activated in that cluster.
Yep.
See, one thing like I really want for these for streams in general is like kind of a you are here map where I draw the little architecture diagram and write what we're doing, but everybody can see it all the time.
Yeah. I don't know what that would look like
I
because
know, I know. I used to do that with like an extra camera on a notebook where I could draw in the notebook and it was like part of the screen.
yeah. So I mean, I've got the ability to use the writing on my laptop and make that come up on the screen.
Right.
So we
But
can.
I want to do the drawing.
I know because I don't do drawing. I mean, it depends. How do you define drawing? Like I can put a pen down and like make lines and things.
You can
Whether you,
make a drawing, but I want to make a useful drawing. Not no, not good. Not like pretty, but useful. That's what I'm in for.
yeah, I kind of want to be offended, but I'm really not. um, yeah, I mean, so yeah, we've got a Kubernetes cluster. It's in Azure. It's got the hotel demo. It's got an hotel collector with all the telemetry pointing to that. We've also put refinery in, so we can do some tail sampling. And we've also added Chaos Mesh. So Chaos Mesh can allow us to do some what in chaos engineering we call experiments. So we can see what happens if. What happens if the world ends?
They call them
What?
experiments instead of causing trouble.
Yes, I mean because one of them sounds bad, one of them sounds really good.
Right,
You
right,
know.
right. I mean, Mesh is open source. I could fork it or make a browser extension that changes the word experiment to cause some trouble.
I mean the experiment. We could you actually change the word experiment to fuck around,
Oh, there you go.
and
Right, right.
then
And all the results to find out.
yeah. It's like two buttons. Like, okay, so fuck around, and then the find out gives a link to honeycomb.
Nice. Nice. Yes. Well, actually, so what we could do is just um make a static web page inside your cluster, right? So that your cluster address slash experiment goes to a page with just those two buttons on it. Fuck
Fuck
around
around goes to
goes
chaos
to
mesh.
chaos mesh and find out goes to honeycomb.
Yeah, I like that. I will definitely. I think that's maybe what we'll do next week. But yes, so yeah, we're gonna fuck around and find out. That is observability, I suppose. And we do have a sticker for that, which is chaos engineering without observability is just chaos.
Right.
So anyway, for those that don't know, we do this weekly and do a bit of fucking around with observability and working out what we can do. It's all codey type things. This isn't a chatty type thing. We do chat. Profanity is expected, almost mandatory. But yeah. So let's have a see. What have we got? So I shall share my screen so that you can see as well, Jess.
Great.
That one there. Okay. So that is Chaos Mesh. And we've got, if I search for pod in the hotel demo, we've got a load of hotel demo stuff. Whoa, they're using a lot of memory. But yeah, we've got all those, and we've got our collectors. We've also, and that was the new thing I added recently, which was cluster metrics. Because we were talking about this the other day around the idea that there's actually two separate collector instances we've got now. One of them is going to bring in metrics from different pods so that we can see different the CPU metrics and that kind of stuff. So we've actually got two collectors running now. Well, three. We've got one on each node, which is our agents, and then we've got one for cluster metrics, which is just a single one running across the whole cluster. Okay, so this is the bit that I hate doing, but we still have to do it. So sh utils
Oh, is this a Chaos Mesh
manager
bit?
role.
Oh, right. To log into Chaos Manager, you have to like do something really bizarre.
Yeah. So I've got to do Pulumi login, AZ blob. So I've got to log into the Pulumi state because that's where all of these things are stored. And then do storage accounts equals. Is that going to log in, or am I going to have to do it the other way? Yay! So I should be able to do that.
This, wow. You could at least script this.
Yeah, well, some of it is that it's very specific. So that bit there, that value there is specific to this, and that value there is specific to this. I did, because I know you love this. I created a whole README for it that tells you how to do
That's
it all.
step one, automate in the human runtime.
Yep. That's why I need to be, that's why it didn't work.
Oh, because you didn't look at your README. You're not running your program. You're pulling this out of your head. Which is a nice way of saying, but.
Export that thing there. Because this is hyper secure and has a password that nobody will ever guess because they don't have to guess because it's not there. Right, so this gives us a token, which is a Kubernetes token. And yeah, this is just how Kubernetes works. So it's not really interesting. So
yeah, next time you could do this before the stream.
Yeah.
So we don't have to look at your hideous login process for Chaos Mesh.
So we get to go to my favorite domain, chaos.demo.onlyspans.com.
He loves this domain.
And it turns out I didn't need to do any of that because it's already logged in because it's kept the token.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so I think we should probably still have our experiment from last time unless I got rid of it. Oh, apparently I'm unauthorized. So maybe it didn't. Maybe it didn't. Let's just log out. Maybe that's got a time limit on it. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. It was loaded, but it's not actually going to do anything.
So if I submit that and then go back to experiments. Cool. Well, so it hasn't got any of them. So last time, if people were watching, last time we
did some stuff. Didn't we make an experiment? It's probably gone now. But no, that was a Kubernetes resource. I would expect that to hang around, right? Your experiment was a custom Kubernetes resource?
So I just got a chat thing saying that your levels are good now. Everybody can hear you. But now,
well, that's something.
Somebody has voluntarily suggested I should be louder. Now, this is new to me. Nobody's ever asked me to be louder, so I'm a bit cautious. I'm going to try and make myself louder.
My levels are good. Okay, yeah, and you separated those two into a different audio stream this time.
Yeah, so I should be able to up the gains, and that should whoa. Now I'm clipping out completely. So we'll reduce that down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so hopefully that should be a lot better for everyone now. Okay, yeah. So last time we did a pod felt, didn't we?
A pod fault? We did. If I recall correctly, last time we killed both of the pods for checkout service.
Yep.
And we were curious what would happen if we killed just one pod for checkout service,
yes.
And what that would look like in Honeycomb, and if we would be able to see the difference. And cluster metrics might help with this.
Yeah, so let's just see if my cluster metrics are coming through.
Service metrics. Don't tell me your cluster metrics are called service metrics.
I think that might be the default.
Seriously? Isn't that everything except the services? What the fuck?
I'm sorry.
Well, if your front end service or if your back end service is called front end, then your cluster metrics can be called service metrics.
Yeah, because the entire world is fucked.
Let's call it what it's not. It's like the fresh sandwiches at the airport. They have to give it a brand name with a trademark so that they can say what's obviously false. Service metrics, TM.
So that says cluster metrics on it. I don't know whether that's the default that they're bringing through, but what do the metrics look like? And let's just group by.
Metrics are so hard to look at. They just have okay, that's not very many. Service underscore.
Oh, that's
name.
a lot.
There they are. Metrics are just a lot.
And then if we actually no, so if we want to do, you don't do a P9, and this is where not to.
It's a metric. It's pre-aggregated, so we don't need to do aggregations over our aggregations. That's just confusing. You do a max.
Yeah.
Of the P99 that already exists in there. If you're looking at a P99 that's recorded as a metric instead of as an attribute on an event, we don't need a P99 or P99s.
So,
although it would probably have the same effect as max. Well, that's not useful. Wait. Why does it say no results, but also has some results? Is the field empty for everything? What is all that stuff down there? We grouped by pod name. What is all this? Seriously, wait. What is going on here? Is this normal? Max something.
That might be left over from this morning.
The incident this morning. If so, we need to tell people. There's the
So
raw data. Ask the raw data what's in that P99 field.
let me just do a
We're
count on
in a
those.
data set.
No, so that's not what we were doing. So count by pod. So what metrics have we got by pod?
Okay, and this is just counting how many like metrics data points we have.
By each of the pods, yeah, so we do have stuff coming back. So I wonder if I was to do raw data, if I do just where
Martin,
pod,
what team are you in? Are
my
you
pro team, so
Martin.net Pro? Okay.
I think, did I already give you access to that
I
one?
cast them. Yeah. I'm in that team.
So if we just do where that is this, what kind of metrics do we get?
We're not very good at honeycomb metrics. That's like not.
Yeah, I mean we're learning. We're learning. You know.
Yeah.
I think we're both really tracing people, and that's the whole point of what we're doing at the moment is working out how we, as application developers, how do we navigate what is important in Kubernetes?
Yeah. True. And I've never really understood how to deal with metrics because there's just so many of them. And I have no idea what I care about. And I guess that's the thing when you're doing the aggregations beforehand, you have to aggregate all the things. And I mean, in traces, there's all these fields, and I have no idea which ones I care about. And I find it really frustrating. Metrics are more so.
So, yeah, there's data there for that pod.
For the puzzle. So what do we care about here? There's
Um,
definitely something. I would like to know, hey pod, how you doing? I don't know, incoming requests or something. Do you get
I
that
mean,
from the pod?
CPU
What
would be
is
the big one, wouldn't it?
okay, sure.
So if we were to do max on CPU, not CPU limit.
There's so many CPUs. How about system.cpu.utilization?
System.cpu.utilization for that pod. Is that going to give us anything? Oh, there we go. But is a 1 utilization good or bad?
One.
And if
I mean, one
switch
should be
this
busy.
to
That should be a percentage. Yeah, I tried that too. It might be one of those rate things. So here's the thing about metrics is that not only are there so many of them and you don't know which one you want, but you have to know like the units and the kind of metric it is. Is it a diff from the previous second? Is it some sort of average or max? So you really have to know a lot about the implementation of the metric. Sometimes you can put that in the OpenTelemetry metric, but Honeycomb doesn't, even if you do put it in there, Honeycomb doesn't bring that in. So the question is, when the collector accumulates system CPU utilization, the fuck does that mean? The fuck is 0. The fuck is 1. Why does it go spiky like that? Should we be doing a rate max? Because some things you need to look at the difference from the previous second, and some things is an absolute. Like a count might be an absolute, and then you actually want to sum over the time period. Right. Something somewhere in the where do these metrics come from? Is this like a receiver in the collector or
sorry, I had the perfect image.
there it is. Thank you.
Yeah, because And
Yes. Can we just hold on? Can you take that bird, just like open it in Paint or whatever, and add metrics to the top of that? Let's just add the word metrics and then, I don't know, post it somewhere,
it
please.
it doesn't like me doing that.
Okay. I can probably find it and do it, but I'll just do that while you keep going. Try to figure out where this metric comes from in the collector, and what we're looking for is some documentation that says what kind of metric that is and how it's gathered,
Right.
and what like the meaningful way to aggregate over, because everything in Honeycomb is an aggregation. So which aggregation is meaningful for that particular metric? And then we're going to put that in the description of the field on your data set.
Right, so we don't want the operator. I mean, my first port of call would be going to the collector repo, and I don't think this is a core receiver. I think this might actually be a contrib receiver. So receivers, yeah. So it must be in contrib. And this is why we probably need somebody who's a Kubernetes or metrics expert to come on and show us what we should be looking at. And
Yeah,
so maybe
yeah.
we break it.
Any of
maybe.
you watching, if you're like, God, these people are idiots, please join us.
Yes, please. Tell us why we're idiots, and educate us, because we want to be educated. So, but yeah, maybe what we do this week is we just break it, like properly fuck it up, and then we get somebody on who knows Kubernetes to come and tell us how they would find out how we fucked it up. Right, so cluster metrics receiver. Is it under?
Okay, so this is yeah, because Kate's cluster receiver. So this is what you set up in order to get these metrics.
I'm gonna
You put this in your collector config
code because I use a preset, and the preset I've got a feeling that cluster metrics isn't what I think it is.
Cluster metrics enabled true. Okay, so now that we know what the preset you said is, now we have to go to the Helm chart source code and look at what the fuck that preset is doing. Or actually, does your collector have the extension that shows its config?
No, not yet.
Okay, we could also ask it for its YAML, the config map. Can't you get the config map in K9s? Is that a thing?
Yes, but what I was trying to do was I was hoping that I wouldn't need to do that, and that I could just look at what the documentation says, because I'd hope that the documentation tells me. And it probably does. I've probably just ignored it.
So you're talking about the documentations for the cluster receiver, because here we're just assuming that cluster metrics enabled true leads us to the Kate's cluster receiver. Well, of course it says Kubernetes cluster receiver. Okay, so that's a pretty strong indication. We probably don't need to check the source code. So now we look at the Kate's cluster receiver, and it's going to tell us that it's scraping it from somewhere, and then we're going to go look at that documentation and hope it has the thing. But it often doesn't, because people who look at metrics look at them a lot and just assume that everybody knows the fuck system.net CPU utilization. Isn't that obvious? No, it's not obvious. How are you measuring that, and what aggregation do I need to use? Okay.
So the counter to that is people do that with traces as well, because we know what we're looking for, because we use all the time. So, and this is that whole thing. Yeah. It's easy. It's like, yeah, that's
after you know it, after you're inside the little in group.
Yes. So right. Auth type, service account, great. and it's got a load of settings for collection intervals, allocatable types to report an array of allocatable resource types this receiver should report. The following allocatable resource types are available. What is an allocatable? This isn't a review of the documentation.
What? Could you like Command Plus a couple times? I can almost see. Okay. All right. Right. And then there's like this standard somewhere in people's heads anyway, there's conventions over many tools of like what those reporting thingies, what the things are that it reports on CPU and what that means and what aggregation you should use with this.
Node condition, metadata exporters. So there's a load of resource. Oh no, that's the cluster role that it's saying it needs. As a deployment, if we do it in OpenShift, I don't know what I'm reading here.
Yeah. I don't think this is actually it, because this is just a step in the chain of metricsy things. Because default metrics. Okay, that's good.
Default metrics. Okay.
Okay, so there's something about CPU limit. So for instance, okay, there's a gauge. It's a gauge. Metric type of gauge has some meaning. And I'm not going to try to guess what meaning it has. But gauge has a meaning as opposed to, are there any other metric types in here?
There'll be, so histogram is the main metric type I understand, because that's the one with buckets.
Right. Histogram is a count in buckets. But these are gauges. No. Oh, yeah. No histograms. So these are some things. There's memory limit. Container restarts. Storage limit. These are all things. Do we have utilization in there? Is that in here? Because I doubt it. No. Okay. Which says that it's not one of the default metrics. Okay, whatever, because this is the default metrics document, right? But we could go look at one of these. We could look at like, failed pods. That looks fun. That looks easy. But wait, was failed pods a gauge? What does gauge mean here?
Where was it? Failed active pods. Desired successful pods.
What? Failed pods. The number of pods which reached phase failed for a job. The fuck does that fucking mean?
So jobs. For a job. So we're in the job thing here. Job is, so you've got pod.
Case.job.failed pods. So okay, so there's probably a job name tag.
No, so job is, you can actually run a pod as a cron job. So job is a type of deployment, if you like, which you can make Kubernetes say, run this every 5 minutes, run this every 10 seconds, run this on a Tuesday at 5:35, etc., etc. So job is a specific type, like a deployment, a service, a pod. So we're in job there. Those are all jobs. There we go. Pod.phase. The current phase of a pod as a metric.
As a gauge? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, yes, because that's what we need as a number.
Okay.
All right, sure. People like numbers. That is one of them.
Right. Well, we're looking really at pods, aren't we? So k8s.pod. Pod phase, pod name, pod UUI. Those are the only default metrics. So where does CPU come in then? So we saw some CPU. Oh, so CPUs
containers, which makes sense.
Because you have multiple containers in a pod. So it's telling you the metrics for the container inside of the pod.
Right. Okay. Yes. Okay. And pods don't really have CPUs, so that's fine. Containers have CPU limits, and stuff. And nodes have CPUs, right? Because they're hardware, or at least
Yeah.
VMs.
So
Effectively
hard
hardware, as far as we
limits.
can tell.
So all we've got is CPU resource requested for the right. So none of this is actually giving us the actual current CPU of the pods.
Wait, what, do pods have CPU?
Or even the containers. We're not even getting
Okay.
that. Because what we're getting is the
When?
CPU limit and the CPU request.
Right. In
None
this.
of those is
But
the
we were
current.
looking at system.cpu.utilization, whatever the fuck that means and wherever the fuck that comes from.
Right. Let's see
So
then.
it's not in the default metrics.
If we go into K9s and we go into config map.
Okay, this will show us the collector config. Great. We go there and we see some stuff. Okay, receivers. You don't have all your receivers turned off.
But we do have the K8s cluster one on there. But it just has a collection interval of 10 seconds.
Interval 10 seconds. That's the configuration. Seriously? Oh, there's a bunch of no, that's just pipelines. Yeah. And all the pipelines are turned on. Also wrong. Whatever. It's doing its job. Right. So then the question is, okay, given shit the K8s cluster receiver poops out. Where do we just find information about what that is? I'm guessing this is like a Kubernetes thing, that it's in the Kubernetes docs that we're going to find out what system.cpu.utilization means.
Perhaps.
So let's look. Okay, I'm curious. This is something we can answer in Honeycomb. If we look for records where the system.cpu.utilization is populated.
Okay. So we go system.cpu. And that's interesting. So we've got load averages. And load averages are a Linux thing, aren't they? Which is not CPU, it's some weird numbers. Because when you do, I'm in Linux on here. If I bring up another terminal at the bottom there and do uptime, I get load averages.
Which is presumably load on the CPU.
Which is 1, 5, and 15-minute average load averages. Which is not exactly CPU from what I understand. I mean, one interesting thing is this is, in my opinion, really useful because I'm an application developer. I don't do the Kubernetes thing, but this could be things that are affecting my app. So what do I need to know? Do I really care about system CPU? I don't know. So system utilization exists. Okay. Let's just do a count of those. Control Enter. It's taken me a while to get the muscle memory to know that Control Enter works in here.
Oh yeah, Command Enter. I think Shift Enter maybe also works. A bunch of them work to run the query. Count. Okay, so that's just a count where system does. So if you go over the raw data, what other fields are in those?
Namespace.
You have a node name and a pod name. Okay, so pod name is in fact a meaningful group by there.
Yep. The pod IP.
We have a service instance ID. I'm guessing that's a Kubernetes service.
And we've got the service name. So what?
Oh, that's a thing. Okay. What does
service namespace?
State.
System user and idle. Good.
Okay. System CPU time. That's something you would use a rate on because you would want to see how it changes over time in your graph. but there's our system CPU utilization, 0.023. Okay, I mean, that looks like maybe it's a roughly percent of CPU that is busy, but I want to know. But our maxing over it looked stupid because it's
right. Max
0 every other second.
System utilization.
CPU
utilization. CPU utilization. And then
where
what
it
I want
exists
is to group.
What's the meaningful thing to group by there? Container?
State, I think, is the interesting one.
State? Really? Okay.
Well, didn't mean to click that one.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Because we've got...
Oh. Why is the system utilization highest in the idle state?
Because what that's saying is and we actually want that as a stacked graph, don't we?
Oh.
Because it's mostly idle.
Okay. So where the fuck would we find this out? That's what I want to know. It looks like... You're right. Please save this query.
1 second. I'm just going to put because all we want is the demo ones. There we go.
Sure. Please give this query a name. I feel like we've discovered something here. What I want to know is how the fuck we would fucking discover it, like in documentation.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things is that we have the Terraform starter pack for Kubernetes, which creates boards for these things, which is us providing context on top of those standardized things. I mean, we shouldn't need to, because it should be obvious, but we are doing that. So system utilization for hotel demo namespace by state. I mean, we can technically remove that, I think.
Nope. That was clearly important.
Yep. Because we've probably got... Why does Control Z not work?
Back does.
Feature request.
Just back.
So Control Z should go back if I've just run the query.
Oh.
Okay. I mean, that's a fairly okay graph.
Right.
But if I also add in
again?
k8.pod, let's see if they... It's a lovely color.
All right. So I scroll over each of them, but wow, that looks cool. But we've got the up and down thing again, saying... Okay, I think this is what this is saying is... do we have omit missing values as an option on stacked graph? It is a really lovely color. I'm quite enjoying it. No, filling missing values with zeros also doesn't work.
So yeah, we currently have the...
What we really want is like interpolate missing values or something. Scroll over the different ones, the different groups in the table. Oh, so pretty. Look how spiky they are.
Maybe limit this to one service.
Each event in Honeycomb has one pod name on it.
Yep.
And so what we've got is an interspersed series of events, but in each time bucket, each 15-second time bucket, we have measurements for some pods and not others. And so those other ones are 0. Change the granularity of this graph. It's in the time picker.
Yeah, we switched it to there, haven't we?
Well, it was always in the time picker. Now it's just nicer. Make it a minute.
So interesting. I thought that would...
Ta-da!
Because it's a 10-second interval on the metrics, so...
But the granularity that it picked was 15 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, the cluster metrics bring in every 10 seconds, And
Yeah.
we're aggregating by 15, which should work.
No, that's 15-minute windows. So one 15-second is going to have 2-second things. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. Every 15 seconds should have at least one, you would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I see what you mean. You're right.
So what
But
if I change this and add
but
in...
this worked. So clearly it wasn't in fact getting that. I mean, we asked for a window of 10 or a thing of 10 seconds, but that doesn't mean it can get it.
Okay, Control Z just seems to remove all of them. Right, what I was wanting to do was there is service. Interesting, service.name is in there. So, because the one that we're wanting to do some chaos engineering on is checkout.
Sure. Yes, we wanted to check out service.
.name doesn't come through, so it wasn't that.
It wasn't that easy. Group by service.name?
Service_name.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it would be service_name. It would have to be.
Nope, not that either.
Okay, group by those two things. Take out the pod name, group by the service names. The way you see what has values is here. Why do we get only recommendation service? Is that the only thing in the hotel demo namespace?
Shouldn't be.
No. Why do we get only? What is going on here?
Why is that? Unless
recommendation service is emitting metrics to this data set and the others are not.
Unless
because it is
does
service
that
metrics.
Have a telemetry?
It might be a service.
That's because the recommendation service is a Python app which
emitting
is
metrics.
Emitting metrics
to this data set, apparently.
Yes.
So this is okay. Can we find the ones that are specifically emitted by the cluster receiver? Where would that show up? Like, yeah, like where would that show up? We could look at the OTel collector config and see what data set it's sending to potentially.
What if we just did count and then did telemetry SDK
try
name?
That. Results. You have to click results. You are distracted by some clicky. Yeah. Do you have your fucking Slack notifications on? Click results.
Results.
Thank you. There's a bunch that aren't populated. Okay, good. So the 40,000 there is probably a recommendation service. And it's the other ones we're interested in. And we're like, where are you coming from? What is your secret thing? Sometimes it's a library name. Sometimes it's, what's the new one?
Oh no, so we have some metrics coming from the other ones as well.
Oh, okay. It's not, all right. It's not all recommendation service, right? Except recommendation service was the only one sending that particular metrics because, anyway. So where are the others coming from, and how would we find that out?
So let's exclude all those.
Okay. Maybe the raw data.
Interesting. Oh no, so that's the.
That just counts, whatever.
Yeah.
So. And the counts we would expect to jump. If it's really every 10 seconds, it would be 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 per 15 seconds.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is there anything?
You can click on raw data and go look at stuff if you want.
Yeah,
see if there's any strings in there. Now that we've excluded the ones that we can attribute. Look at that. I hate metrics.
Protocol, state steel. I like that. I want to know what that is.
Steel, established, reserved, user, interrupt, close, used.
File system usage.
Okay, so no type ext4 vf.
That's ext4 file system type.
See how these things like certain meanings have certain tags have certain meaning for certain metrics, and wow, it's so hard to build this. So like,
So system.memory usage is something that is not coming from the telemetry SDKs.
okay.
So I wonder if we were to change that and do where system.memory usage exists. Are we getting many of those?
I wonder,
Not that many.
we could get a processor probably to add to all the metrics a tag of cluster receiver of like, where the fuck did you come from? That would be effective in Honeycomb specifically. It's always going to have the same value anyway, so it would be effective anywhere. But
So you mean add an attribute processor for the metrics?
yeah, an attribute processor just for attribution. An attribution attribute. Doesn't that sound like a great idea?
I mean, we could attribute that idea to you.
I'll take it.
So it looks like those have no context.
Oh wow. No context at all. It's just those three fields.
Yeah.
Oh my. What a fucking mess. God. Oh,
Like
pain.
those 6 things there should be one event.
No. Well, if that's not how metrics work.
Well,
You
I
have
mean,
to
for us, we
separate
should
the
have, state.use, state.free, state.
uh
With memory usage. If you pivot those,
system.memory.usage.used, system.memory.usage.free.
yes,
Is how you do that.
yeah.
And that is actually like a really great thing to do in Honeycomb specifically, because then you put them all in the same event, and then it's one Honeycomb event instead of 6. So I think that is something that people do somehow. I think, didn't we have a collector processor for that? Or maybe that was something that we did in our Kate's.
Yeah, we've got our Kubernetes
attribute
agent,
processor.
and it might be
Our Kubernetes agent. There it is. Yeah, because that's for Honeycomb. You want lots of fields on a single event. But then that doesn't fix the problem of fucking whose memory?
maybe it forgot. Yeah. I was listening to the other day. You ever heard of it's going to escape me now. There's a band that did the song Tum Thumping.
No, I haven't heard of them. It's a band. Not that I know 0 bands, but I know like 20 bands. And there are a lot of bands.
Chumbawamba.
Oh, I like Chumbawamba. I wouldn't have identified them from anything, but
yeah,
that sounds familiar.
They did like really obscure punk songs early on.
They had the one about the train.
The train?
Maybe there's only a train in the video. In the video, there's train tracks.
There's a big purple thing on one of their videos.
See?
But anyway, they do this thing.
We know about bands, about as much as we know about these metrics.
One of my favorite lyrics is, "Do you suffer from long-term memory loss? I can't remember."
Oh yeah. Yeah, that is a good one.
It's one of my favorite lyrics. Makes me laugh every time. Anyway, I think metrics are a dead end for now.
Right. We like took a side quest in this episode.
Yes.
And tried to figure out what the fuck is going on in our metrics data set. We actually figured out something about CPU utilization, although the question remains, whose? No, the CPU utilization had like pod name and service name and all kinds of useful stuff on it.
Because that came from the SDKs of the applications rather than Kubernetes.
Okay. And I liked those a lot more because, although they'd be even better, like just as attributes on your spans, because they're like, here's my context, as an application.
Yes.
But these ones, what system? We have 2 nodes.
See, I wonder whether if I go back to
all of Azure.
I wonder whether, if we look at our K9s just give us CPU and memory. Is that kind of the same thing, aggregated over the whole cluster?
Oh, the fuck good is that?
I mean, I am starting to realize now why we have put so much effort into building those pre-built dashboards that for Kubernetes, and why there are organizations out there that they don't have a vested interest in making all of this describable and understandable, because they can sell big dashboards on doing it. I would much prefer for these to be understandable and easy to navigate, because I'm the sort of person who wants to investigate.
Right.
But yeah, it doesn't look like what people are attempting to do, which is annoying.
Yeah, but at least we get to play around with such things.
Yes.
Right. So we don't know what these system memory things are, and we don't know how to find out. And I'm sad, but also we have a completely different meeting to prep for in 15 minutes.
Yes. So we'll have to leave that there. I'm sorry for anybody watching that we didn't get to do some chaos engineering. But for next time, which won't be next week because I'm in Copenhagen, I'm delivering a talk and another talk and a workshop as well on all this kind of stuff.
Copenhagen Dev Fest.
CPH Dev Fest. It's going to be amazing. We have a party in the evening. We've got a festival in the evening. It's going to be amazing. So probably in 2 weeks' time. But hopefully by that point, Jess will have drawn a diagram that explains where we are in our whole process. Because I'm going to ask her to do that. So yeah, hopefully we'll have a big diagram of what all of that looks like for next time, and hopefully we'll get to some more, and I will do a bit of research as well and see if we can understand what these metrics are doing. But Thank you very much, everyone.